Welcome to Digital Worship. Today we'll sing songs of praise. We'll pray together. We'll hear scripture. And then Pastor KJ has an amazing word for us. The Spirit of God is here because we're here together. Let us worship. Again, he entered the synagogue, and a man was there who had a withered hand. They watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at their hardness of heart and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." he stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him.
Today's scripture found us in a not so familiar story about Jesus healing on the Sabbath. The Pharisees at this point had just about had it with Jesus and his rebellious ways. But honestly, Jesus wasn't being rebellious. They were plotting to kill him. They wanted him out of their way. But Jesus' purpose in the whole New Testament was about changing our mindset. It was about looking at equality and justice, caring for the poor and the sick. And the Pharisees, all they cared about was themselves. And so they weren't overly happy with Jesus healing on the Sabbath. And it was another chance that they had to nail him on doing something that was against their rules and their laws of their time. So if we go back to Moses' time, this is where their laws came from, the rules and the Torah. And back in Deuteronomy 5:12 through 15, it says, "Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all the work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your ox, your donkey, or any of your animals, nor any foreign residing in your towns, so that your male and female servants may rest, as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand, outstretched arms. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day." But things change. The life of the Israelites was entirely different than the life today. Throughout the time, laws have changed. Do any of you remember the Blue Law? If you were born after 1967, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But the Blue Laws were also known as the Sunday Laws, and they were written to protect laborers so that they had a chance to go to worship. And so there were laws in every state and counties that said that you honored the Sabbath or you honored Sunday so that people could go to church. And throughout time, those laws lasted a long time. Listen a little bit to what some of these laws were. From the state of New York, the ban on Sunday sales had been in existence since 1656, when implemented by the New Netherlands, but was voided 320 years later as unconstitutional. And then it hit the highest state's court in June 17, 1976. At this time, blue laws were still present in 30 of the 50 states. In North Dakota, the change were made after a 1966 snow blizzard where people couldn't get essentials that they needed to survive. So that law was changed in 1966 and then rechanged and updated so that businesses had to stay closed until noon in 1991. Believe it or not, in Pennsylvania, up until 1931, it was illegal to have any sports on Sunday. And then that law changed in 1933 so that all sports could happen. In the state of Texas, car sales are still not allowed. Car dealerships have a choice of either Saturdays or Sundays, but they must be closed on one of them to allow their employees to honor the Sabbath. In Virginia, historically, blue laws prohibited all Sunday laborers of businesses from 1610 to 1960, when the law was amended so that furnaces could be fixed and essentials could be done on that day. In 1974, though, the General Assembly abolished all of those laws. So that had been happening for over 400 years. laws change. In Nebraska, there are still counties that do not allow liquor sales on Sundays. So today, there are 5 states that do not allow hunting on Sundays. There are 11 states that still do not allow car sales on Sundays. And there's 1 state that does not allow horse racing on Sundays. In my years growing up, I remember in our town, there was only 1 gas station and 1 corner grocery store that was allowed to be open. And you know what? We survived. It was okay. But laws change. We are a 24/7 society. We have demanded and wanted to be able to get to anything, do anything for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's okay. Things change. But my point is this. In Moses' time, there was not gas stations. There were not hospitals. There were not long-term care facilities in which workers, essential workers, needed to work. So laws have changed throughout the year because our society has changed and our lives have changed. And Jesus knew this. He was okay with this. He was trying to say that sometimes laws, and when he was attacked by the Pharisees for healing a man who had a crippled hand on Sunday, he was doing good. That was the whole point, that it's okay to do good. So consider in today's world, picture this story in this way. There's a man who has a severely damaged hand from some kind of an industrial accident, and a physician is trying to heal him. Can you imagine a blue law Pharisee coming in and wanting to arrest him and perhaps kill him for caring for someone? It puts it in perspective. Here, Jesus was trying to heal someone. He was doing good. And the good news is this, that Jesus does care about us. He cares about healing us. He cares about our lives. And he understands that people work on Sundays or on Saturdays if you're Jewish, or observe the Saturday as your Sabbath day. He doesn't condemn us for doing those things. Most churches in today's society have options. We have a Saturday night service. We have later services on Sunday. It meets those needs. To me, there are 2 takeaways in this scripture today. The first one is Sabbath. The Sabbath is important, but it does not have to happen at the same time for everyone. Wayne Mueller, in his book called The Sabbath, gives readers guidance to how to pull away from the hectic life that we live in today and find Sabbath, a purposeful, peaceful time to find rest for our souls and to renew. This is what Jesus wanted for our lives. He wants time with us, time to take a deep breath and to connect, time to heal, to renew, and to have hope. Hopefully find a Sabbath time that meets your needs and that space and that quiet time. Hopefully when people come to church, you find Sabbath, either through the music, the silence, the fellowship, the sermons, the scriptures, a time that renews your soul, a time that gives you hope, a time that revitalizes you to go out and to go ahead and live your life. And if it can't be on Sunday mornings, the important part is to find that Sabbath moment with Christ. Sometimes we need to be purposeful and set aside time and holy space with God. In the busyness of our life, we run so fast in so many directions that we kind of feel like we meet our own needs, spinning plates and pretending that all is well. Until. And this is the second point out of the scripture. Jesus says, stretch out your hand. Jesus tells the man with the crippled hand, stretch out your hand. And doing so, the man is healed. Well, until we fall apart, until we are so exhausted we can't keep going, until life explodes on us, until that moment, sadly, we wait until the until. Take time now, though, to stretch out your hand and to reach for Christ, whether it be exhaustion, whether it be stress, whether it be hopelessness or fear. Maybe you need to stretch out a hand and acknowledge that your anger is robbing you of joy and fun in your life. Stretch out whatever is going on within you that needs Christ's peace and Christ's healing. Jesus knows we're going to have trouble in this world. And he says, come to me. All are welcome. When you are weary, come to me. Reach out in prayer and honesty about what you need and where you are, and stop pretending that you can heal thyself. So in closing, I encourage you, stretch out your hand in prayer towards God and find a time of Sabbath, time to release, to renew, and to find peace. As you go this week, take time. Take time for yourself. Take time to find Sabbath moments, time with God, time to renew, and time to have fun. This week is the beginning of June. It's a wonderful time of summer. Go forward, share love with one another, and live the best life that you can.